freshness which is due to strangeness. It is because of this habit of letting constant factors slip from consciousness that we constantly fall into the error of thinking of the sense awareness of a particular factor in nature as being a two-termed relation between the mind and the factor. For example, I perceive a green leaf. Language in this statement suppresses all reference to any factors other than the percipient mind and the green leaf and the relation of the sense awareness. It discards the obvious inevitable factors which are essential elements in the perception. I am here, the leaf is there, and the event here and the event which is the life of the leaf there are both embedded in a totality of nature which is now, and within this totality there are other discriminated factors which it is irrelevant to mention. Thus language habitually sets before the mind a misleading abstract of the indefinite complexity of the fact of sense awareness. What I now want to discuss is the special relation of the percipient event which is here to the duration which is now. This relation is a fact in nature, namely the mind is aware of nature as being with these two factors in this relation. Within the short present duration of the here of the percipient event has a definite meaning of some sort. This meaning of here is the content of the special relation of the percipient event to its associated duration. I will call this relation cogredience. Accordingly, I ask for a description of the character of the relation of cogredience. The present snaps into a past and a present when the here of cogredience loses its single determinate meaning. There has been a passage of nature from the here of perception within the past duration to the different here of perception within the present duration, but the two heres of sense awareness within neighbouring durations may be indistinguishable. In this case there has been a passage from the past to the present, but a more retentive perceptive force might have retained the passing nature as one complete present instead of letting the earlier duration slip into the past. Namely, the sense of rest helps the integration of durations into a prolonged present, and the sense of motion differentiates nature into a succession of shortened durations. As we look out of a railway carriage in an express train, the present is past before reflection can seize it. We live in snippets too quick for thought. On the other hand, the immediate present is prolonged according as nature presents itself to us in an aspect of unbroken rest. Any change in nature provides ground for a differentiation among durations so as to shorten the present. But there is a great distinction between self-change in nature and change in external nature. Self-change in nature is change in the quality of the standpoint of the percipient event. It is the break-up of the here which necessitates the break-up of the present duration. Change in external nature is compatible with a prolongation of the present of contemplation rooted in a given standpoint. What I want to bring out is that the preservation of a peculiar relation to a duration is a necessary condition for the function of that duration as a present duration for self-awareness. This peculiar relation is the relation of cogredience between the percipient event and the duration. Cogredience is the preservation of unbroken quality of standpoint within the duration. It is the continuance of identity of station within the whole of nature which is the terminus of sense awareness. The duration may comprise change within itself, but cannot, so far as it is one present duration, comprise change in the quality of its peculiar relation to the contained percipient event. In other words, perception is always here, and a duration can only be posited as present for sense awareness on condition that it affords one unbroken meaning of here in its relation to the percipient event. It is only in the past that you can have been there with a standpoint distinct from your present here. Events there and events here are facts of nature, and the qualities of being there and here are not merely qualities of awareness as a relation between nature and mind. The quality of determinate station in the duration which belongs to an event which is here, in one determinate sense of here, is the same kind of quality of station which belongs to an event which is there, in one determinate sense of there. Thus cogredience has nothing to do with any biological character of the event which is related by it to the associated duration. This biological character is apparently a further condition for the peculiar connexion of a percipient event with the percipience of mind, but it has nothing to do with the relation of the percipient event to the duration which is the present whole of nature posited as the disclosure of the percipience. Given the requisite biological character, the event in its character of a percipient event selects that duration with which the operative past of the event is practically cogredient within the limits of the exactitude of observation. Namely, amid the alternative time systems which nature offers there will be one with a duration giving the best average of cogredience for all the subordinate parts of the percipient event. This duration will be the whole of nature, which is the terminus posited by sense awareness. Thus the character of the percipient event determines the time system immediately evident in nature. As the character of the percipient event changes with the passage of nature, or, in other words, as the percipient mind in its passage correlates itself with the passage of the percipient event into another percipient event, the time system correlated with the percipience of that mind may change. When the bulk of the events perceived are cogredient in a duration other than that of the percipient event, the percipience may include a double consciousness of cogredience, namely the consciousness of the whole within the observer in the train is here, and the consciousness of the whole within which the trees and bridges and telegraph posts are definitely there. Thus in perceptions under certain circumstances the events discriminated assert their own relations of cogredience. This assertion of cogredience is peculiarly evident when the duration to which the perceived event is cogredient is the same as the duration which is the present whole of nature. In other words, when the event and the percipient event are both cogredient to the same duration. We are now prepared to consider the meaning of stations in a duration, where stations are a peculiar kind of routes, which define absolute position in the associated timeless space. There are, however, some preliminary explanations. A finite event will be said to extend throughout a duration when it is part of the duration, and is intersected by any moment which lies in the duration. Such an event begins with the duration and ends with it. Furthermore, every event which begins with the duration and ends with it extends throughout the duration. This is an axiom based on the continuity of events. By beginning with a duration and ending with it, I mean (1) that the event is part of the duration, and (2) that both the initial and final boundary moments of the duration cover some event particles on the boundary of the event. Every event which is cogredient with the duration extends throughout that duration. It is not true that all the parts of an event cogredient with the duration are also cogredient with the duration. The relation of cogredience may fail in either of two ways. One reason for failure may be that the part does not extend throughout the duration. In this case the part may be cogredient with another duration which is part of the given duration, though it is not cogredient with the given duration itself. Such a part would be cogredient if its existence were sufficiently prolonged in that time system. The other reason for failure arises from the four-dimensional extension of events so that there is no determinate route of transition of events in linear series. For example, the tunnel of a tube railway is an event at rest in a certain time system, that is to say, it is cogredient with a certain duration. A train travelling in it is part of that tunnel, but is not itself at rest. If an event E be cogredient with a duration d, and d' be any duration which is part of D,